Captain Asher Vale's vision swam as crimson sky flares painted the broken hull of his downed fighter. He tasted salt and iron his own blood, and the agony of a shattered femur screamed through him as he lay half buried in alien sand. The survivor's transmissions had gone dark moments ago, leaving him alone in the vast dunes of Zelenary Prime. His mission had been to cripple the enemy's supply lines, but now he was the one in need of rescue. In that moment, when hope flickered like a dying star, she appeared. Her silhouette against the dying light was at once terrifying and electric, an alien sentinel in sleek cerulean armor, curves accentuated by the slender plating. Asher's breath hitched as she knelt beside him, the world narrowing to the curve of her thigh and the soft luminescence of her eyes. Their gazes locked, and he felt the pulse of something beyond fear. Curiosity. This was no battlefield medic from the Federation. This was an intergalactic savior who would blur all his known boundaries. The very air between them crackled with promiser, human-alien romance unfolding on the edge of oblivion. Without a word, she produced a translucent container of milky white fluid, the essence of her species' remarkable healing lactation. It was the core of an ancient alien lactation fantasy, whispered about in off-world taverns as myth. Yet here it was in her hands, warm and glowing. She pressed the vial to Asher's lips. Desperation overcame decorum. He drank. The sweetness burned away his nausea, knitting his torn flesh with alien bioenzymes. His body trembled as power surged. Through him this was more than medicine. It was a sacrament. Each swallow bound him deeper to her. She watched him with clinical detachment at star, consummate practitioner of alien nurse, erotic yet, beneath the steel blue gaze, something wavered. He dared to reach for her wrist, the contact sending a jolt of warmth up both arms. His fingers brushed her skin. She inhaled sharply. The power dynamic shifted. Here was a sacrificed hero romance in its infancy. He had given everything for his comrades, and now her body milk rescue had saved him. In that charged moment, the predator and prey script reversed, giving birth to a power reversal romance neither had anticipated. Pain ebbed from Asher's mind as the healing milk seeped into every fiber of his being. He became aware of her gentle touch, guiding him to sit up. The golden light of Zelenari's twin suns glittered on her cerulean skin, illuminating the delicate markings near her collarbone, symbols of her clan's sacred duty to nurture. He gazed at those glyphs, yearning to learn their language. This was his second chance. Her intergalactic love story beginning where war had ended. An alien cruiser's engines groaned in the distance. She glanced up, eyes narrowing. Without hesitation, she lifted him into her arms, her strength far exceeding any human's, as she strode toward a sleek hovercraft. He hovered between consciousness and awakening, lulled by the lingering sweetness. On his tongue, behind them, the desert winds carried the echoes of distant gunfire. Ahead lay Sanctuarian, perhaps something more inside the craft. Gravity shifted, and Asher's head lolled against her shoulder. She guided him to a reclining biobed, strapping his leg gently. Nurses at the settlement would finish the work, but she lingered, hands hovering near his jaw. "You are safe," she whispered in guttural syllables that danced around his mind. "I will not let you die here." Her voice was a promise and a plea. His heart thundered. He had come to Zelenary Prime to fight, not to fall into a stranger's arms. Yet now, entangled in her gaze, he felt both surrender and triumph. He was the sacrificed hero reborn, cradled by an alien nurse whose body held the cure. Their fates entwined, forging the earliest beam of an HFY, sci-fi erotica saga tale of survival, sensual nourishment, and the fragile bloom of connection amidst cosmic carnage. And so, as the hovercraft lifted off into the violet dusk, Asher Vale began to understand that this rescue was only the first chapter in something far greater. Light filtered through opaque panels as Captain Asher Vale awoke to the hum of medical apparatus. His chest rose, easily no longer the struggle of fractured ribs. The alien nurse who had saved him stood nearby, her silhouette undulating as she monitored vital signs. With each breath, he tasted the faint afterglow of her body milk rescue, an intoxicating sweetness that lingered like a vow under the bioluminescent glow of Zelenary Prime's healing ward. She moved with precise grace. Tubes of luminescent fluid snaked into his arm, but he needed none of that. Instead, he reached for the container she had left by his side. She followed his gaze and nodded almost imperceptibly. "Drink," she urged with quiet authority, her voice now soft with something new. Each swallow of the alien lactation fluid was a revelation. It coursed through his veins, a warmth that spread from his core to his fingertips. The potency of this alien nurse erotica was unlike anything he'd known, curative and carnal in tandem. His pulse accelerated, not with fevered pain, but with something closer to yearning. When he set the empty vial down, his gaze met hers in silent communion. She stepped closer, the scent of her warm skin enveloping him. She knelt, her armor removing, itself in fluid motion. The curve of her hip and the arc of her thigh were on full display, validation of human myths about female Zelenary guardians. Captain Vale's breath caught. She extended a slender hand, and he took it, letting himself be drawn forward. She guided him toward a crystalline couch, her fingers trailing sparks of static energy that made his nerves sing. In that moment, their roles reversed. Though he was the soldier, she was the healer, and their union became a sacrament of power reversal romance. His wounds cried out for her attention, and she answered by pressing her body to his, aligning her breast with his parched lips. He drank deeply again, his wounded body thriving on her sacrifice. The milky nectar flowed freely now, a cosmic river of life force, as her milk healed his flesh. His hands explored the alien terrain of her back, mapping muscles and ridges she hadn't known were there until he traced them. She arched into his touch, eyes fluttering. The clinical nurse was gone. In her place stood a woman transformed by desire. Their interlude was an intergalactic love story forged not in quiet longing but in desperate need. He whispered her name. Hers was unpronounceable to human tongues, but she laughed, a soft trill like chimes on a breeze. "Vale," she said, repeating his name as though tasting it. This human-alien romance was more profound than mere attraction. It was communion. His healing was mutual. She needed his warmth as much as he needed her body milk. When at last they paused, he held her close. Her cerulean skin glowed under the ward lights, her breasts still full from the endless flow. He touched her lightly, reverent. "I owe you my life," he murmured. She smiled, voice trembling with something between pride and affection. "You owe me nothing, hero. You are my story now." She traced patterns on his chest, aftershocks of healing energy shimmering where her fingertips passed. Their bond sealed, they prepared to leave the ward. Outside, the settlement thrummed with activities, Zelenary warriors and human survivors working side by side. He rose unsteadily, still lean and scarred, but no longer helpless. She offered an elbow, and he took it, shoulder to shoulder with the alien nurse who had become both savior and lover. As they stepped into the corridor, he felt an unfamiliar stir of hope. He was a hero who had sacrificed everything, now reborn through an alien lactation fantasy. This HFY sci-fi erotica saga lived on in their entwined hearts, a testament that even in the void between stars, the human spirit could ignite a passion that transcended worlds. The settlement's central atrium pulsed with xenobiotic flora-glowing vines that fed on ambient energy. Captain Vale found himself drawn to their iridescent tendrils, but his companion's hand on his arm tethered him to reality. She had removed her medical robes and now wore a fitted jumpsuit that accentuated her lithe form. The slick fabric hinted at the power hidden beneath both a nurse and a warrior. Their human-alien romance unfolded in subtle glances, each charged with memory and anticipation. He led her to a gathering of humans and Zelenary officers, where the command tent stood. His presence sparked hushed murmurs among the council. He cleared his throat, offering a bow of respect to both species leaders. She remained at his side, an unspoken declaration of unity. The council nodded solemnly. The enemy threat still loomed, but hope had been reborn in him and, through him, in them all. Later, alone in the tent's antechamber, she sprang a surprise. "Your wounds have healed beyond expectation," she said, voice hushed. "But there is more I can give." Before he could respond, she produced a crystalline chalice brimming with creamy fluid. It shimmered with soft opalescence, her personal reserve of body milk rescue. His pulse surrendered to temptation. Each drop he drank was a cascade of warmth, healing not just physical scars, but feeding something deeper, his soul. The Zelenary goddess in her smiled as she watched him. He offered his own cup to her now. "Taste your gift," he said, voice thick with emotion. She hesitated, then drank. The elixir mingled with her own lactation, creating a new blend that whispered of unity and passion, their lips Metalian to human, but universal in longing, tongues tangled in tender exploration, their bodies pressed together, engorged and yearning. He laid her down on woven mats of silken fiber, each touch igniting heat between them. She guided him inside her, a perfect union of species in a scandalous dance of love and power. This was their power reversal romance incarnate, the healer becoming the desired, the warrior the curator of her pleasure. They moved together, each thrust a testament to their bond. The medical tent's translucent walls blurred as they lost themselves in waves of sensation. Her milk endlessly flowing bathed him, warm and sweet, sealing every joint and sinew with healing properties. They cried out as flesh and spirit fused in ecstasy. This sacrificial hero romance had come full circle. He had given his strength, and she returned more than she'd taken. Hours later, they lay entwined, bodies sticky with milky residue, hearts racing in tandem. Vale traced the faint markings on her shoulder. "I never believed in destiny," he whispered. "But now—" She kissed him, the taste of his blood and her milk lingering on her lips. "Now we write our own," she replied. They rose to face the council, once more warriors reborn through love. In that moment, they became living symbols of an HFY, sci-fi, erotica revolution. A human-alien romance that could unite worlds, foster sacrificed hero romance ideals, and hinge on the most primal act of nourishment known across galaxies. Dawn on Zelenary Prime brought twin suns, painting the dunes in rose and gold. Vale stood beside his alien lover on the ramp of a troop transport, staring at the horizon. The enemy vessels loomed like black teeth on the horizon's edge. Today, the settlement would strike back. Today, he would stand shoulder to shoulder with the woman whose body milk rescue had given him life. She slipped beside him, armor polished to a mirror sheen. Her cerulean hair caught the light. "We fight together," she said, eyes blazing. Their hands met hers gentle, his calloused. This was the consummation of their intergalactic love story. No longer wounded, he felt invincible. She offered him a final vial of lactation fluid, not out of necessity, but ritual. He drank, letting her power flow once more, a final blessing. Before battle, inside the transport, rows of warriors braced themselves. The hum of engines vibrated in their bones. Vale tapped a mic. "For freedom," he intoned. "For love." The response crashed like thunder. The craft lifted, slicing across amber sands toward the enemy armada. She stood by his side in the gun deck, tendrils of her jumpsuit whispering against the cold metal. He watched her, feeling the weight of what she had given. The humans trusted him, the Zelenari trusted her. Together, they represented a power reversal romance that transcended politics, proof that vulnerability and strength were two sides of the same coin. Enemy fighters rose to meet them in a storm of laser fire. Vale barked orders, his voice steady. Beside him, she administered triage to the wounded Dalian and human alike, her body milk rescue fluid flowing in vials and drips. She moved like a spectre of healing through chaos. Every time she administered her milk, a soldier's wounds sealed, their spirit lifted. Every act was a brushstroke in an HFY sci-fi erotica tapestry of hope. A missile struck the transport's flank, throwing Vale to the deck. Pain flared in his side, but before darkness could claim him, she was there, her arms around him, lifting him to safety. She cradled him as though he were the most precious gift in the galaxy. Her milk glowed in her palm, seeping through fabric into his wounds. He murmured her name, even as adrenaline sharpened his focus. They staggered from the wreckage into the fray. Alien and human fighters fought side by side. Together, Vale and his nurse-turned lover stood atop a dune, back to back. She whispered in his ear words he could not translate, but understood in every fiber. He raised his rifle. She lifted a healing sphere that pulsed with lactation fantasy energy. With each pulse, allies advanced. With each shot, enemies fell. Their combined power forged a sacrificial hero romance, epic enough to become legend. As the last of the enemy ships fled, Vale dropped his rifle. She sank to her knees, exhaustion and triumph mingling in her expression. He knelt before her, cupping her face. Her milk dripped from a small wound on her shoulder, a symbol of her devotion. He drank directly, as if it were the sweetest wine. The taste was victory distilled, on that blood-soaked field, beneath twin suns. They sealed their interspecies bond, a human-alien romance sculpted in war and nurtured by alien nurse erotica. Their love became the cradle of a power reversal romance that would echo across the cosmos. Tendrils of smoke curled around the settlement's rebuilt spires as Vale and his companion returned victorious. Statues of fallen heroes bore silent witness to their sacrifice. She led him to the central healing gardens, an oasis of bioluminescent flora and crystalline pools. In the hush, they disrobed, letting the heat of battle wash away in warm water. She dipped her fingers in a pool of rippling, milk-like liquid, her own reserves gifted to the oasis. As he watched, she fed the pool with her lactation fantasy fluid, turning the water opalescent. "This is for you," she said, voice soft. and for everyone who still needs hope. This pool of body milk rescue would heal wounds physical and emotionally. He drew her into his arms, pressing her back against a flowering vine. Their lips met with fervor born of months of shared peril. He probed her scars, each one telling a story of battles fought and sacrifices made. She responded with gentle moans, her body arching into his. Their union was a culmination of their intergalactic love story, raw, tender, eternal. When the night deepened, they lay entwined beneath glowing petals. Asher traced the slender line of her jaw. "We changed the course of this war," he whispered. "Our love did that." She smiled, tears glimmering in her eyes. And now she pressed a final vial of her healing milk into his hand. "Now you can share it with your people." The next dawn, Vale addressed a crowd of humans and Zelenari alike. He spoke of unity, of love born in the crucible of conflict. At his side stood the nurse who had saved him, now unveiled as both healer and princess of her clan. He held the vial aloft. "This gift is not mine alone," he proclaimed. "It belongs to every life we shall save." The crowd cheered as she distributed the precious fluid. Children tasted its sweetness. Wounded veterans wept as pain vanished. Their love had birthed a cure for wounds both seen and unseen. This was the legacy of their HFY Sci-Fi erotica saga, testament that compassion and courage could reshape destinies across worlds. Later, as they watched children play among healing pools, Vale knelt before her. "Will you join me forever?" His voice trembled with hope. She placed her hand on his heart. "For every star in this sky," she vowed. They embraced, sealing their power reversal romance with a kiss that resonated across Zelenari Prime. Thus closed one chapter of their intergalactic love story. But in every healed life, every whispered legend, the echoes of their bond would endure. A human hero and his alien nurse weaving hope from sacrifice, sustenance from desire, and an HFY interspecies romance that would echo through eternity. Months later, the once ravaged settlement thrived. Verdant fields bloomed, nurtured by the bionutritive pools she tended. Asher Vale walked beside her through the gardens, marveling at the resilience of life. The people called them the healers, the warrior, and the nurse, whose bond had saved a world. She paused by a cluster of glowing blossoms. "These are children of the first healing," she explained, plucking one and handing it to him. It exuded a faint sweetness. He bit into its petal flavor of hope on his tongue. Their human-alien romance had grown roots in this soil, each bloom a living chronicle of their love. That evening, they retreated to the royal quarters she claimed as her own. The chamber was draped in silken banners woven with both human and Zelenari symbology. Candles flickered, casting dancing shadows. Asher lit a central brazier, the flame reflecting in her eyes. She joined him in the center of the room, offering a crystalline goblet filled with her lactation fantasy nectar. He drank slowly, savoring the warming flood. She rested against him, whispering. He placed a tender kiss on her breast, drawing forth another stream. She moaned softly, surrendering to the gentle worship. This was alien nurse erotica, in its purest form a ritual of mutual reverence and healing. Their bodies moved together in timeless unity. Each thrust was a vow anew, each sigh a promise. His hands roamed her cerulean curves. Her fingers traced constellations on his skin. The power reversal romance that had begun in desperation now thrived in devotion. He drank deeply of her essence, and she of his passion. Morning came on silent wings. They lay entangled, heart still echoing last night's reverie. Asher gazed at her, mind alight with possibilities. "Let us bring this cure to the stars," he said. Her eyes glinted. Together, she agreed, under the vault of the cosmos. Their flagship prepared for launch. The healers stood before their crew, a coalition of humans and Zeleneri, ready to spread their body milk rescue across besieged worlds. Asher carried the final vials of her lactation fantasy, while his bride donned ceremonial regalia, marking her dual role as healer and queen. He addressed them from the command deck. "We set out not as conquerors, but as emissaries of hope. May our bond guide us." The engines ignited. The vessel roared into the void, a beacon of unity days into their voyage. Alarms shrieked a distress call from a battered colony. They descended into the storm of fire and ruin. She moved at his side, her milk flowing through injector suits, too wounded on both sides of the conflict. He fought fiercest where the need was greatest, fighting not to kill but to protect. When the last body lay cradled in her arms, his vessel silent, she collapsed from exhaustion. He held her, pressing a vial to her lips so she could replenish her strength. This was their power reversal romance at its zenith, rescuing the rescuer, an endless cycle of giving and receiving. On the final day, they stood atop a high ridge overlooking a world reborn. Verdant fields replaced battlefields. Survivors tended crops, children played beneath violet skies. Vale turned to his queen. "We did this," he whispered. She traced his scar with a finger. "We did this together." Their lips met, sealing an intergalactic love story that began in sacrifice and blossomed in erotic communion. Thus concludes the saga of Captain Asher, Vale, and the alien nurse, Kidrolala, sacrificed hero romance woven into the vast tapestry of HFY, Sci-Fi, erotica, a human-alien romance that defied the void, and an alien lactation fantasy that became a universal legend of body milk rescue and power reversal romance. Their story will echo wherever hope is needed, a testament that love, no matter how unconventional, can heal worlds.